Control Coffee and Cereal Bar, open 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the weekends at 15th and Pine Lake.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Attention all Wings fans. Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O, or in Williamsburg Village.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Allo Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela, they let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
This is On the Block with Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer, Jay Foreman. Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Orman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
That it is. Welcome in Wednesday edition of the show, 3:03 Central Time. Thanks for being along for the ride. I am Austin Orman, waiting a call from Jay Foreman. He'll be along before too long. But in the interim, you can be part of the show, 402-464-5685. Eric says, unpause, Strick. Yeah, well, Stricky's off the show today. Stricky is traveling. It'll be me and Jay holding down at the fort for Old School after On the Block, which is this little ditty right here. Eric, yes, he is unpaused. We had to unpause him so that he could get on with his life, get on with his business. And I'm going to make it my goal, my objective, to not need to have anyone hit the pause button on me. For those of you out there, I'm going to put Eric on blast here. And I'll do this because Eric is a loyal listener to the station. We appreciate him. We poke fun at each other back and forth. Eric tried to get me to say something on the text line so that he could hit the pause button on me. And that's not happening, right? Maybe you can get Strick to fall for it. Maybe Jay in a moment of weakness. But if you send something like that on the text line and expect me to read it, just know I try to go through with a discerning eye. So you're not going to get to hit the pause button on me if you send something on the text line. But I love your input. I love your feedback. I love your thoughts. 402-464-5685. That's the number to our Sartor Hamann Jewelers text line. Don't forget Sartor Hamann Jewelers also sponsors our streams. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are up and rolling thanks to them. You can leave a comment on any of those platforms. We will see it pop over and get to it again, as long as you're not making me say something that would make Eric hit the pause button on me. And as always, a big thanks to Allo for sponsoring channel 961 on their cable package. Allo's great, guys. I am an Allo subscriber, have been since my wife and I moved into our apartment, which would have been about 5 years ago. We kept our Allo Fiber service when we moved to our house a few years ago. Have not had an issue with it. They have been great. If you subscribe to them for internet, pat yourself on the back. You're getting the best in town. If you subscribe to them for cable, really good offerings. I don't have their cable package myself, but I know my family does, and I certainly take advantage of it when we take my young one over there to see grandma and grandpa. And, he's not watching as much TV, right? Trying to be a good parent, keep him off the tube as much as I possibly can. That now everyone has their moments of weakness where they just need something to distract their kid or entertain them. But he is blessed with great grandmas and grandpas, great aunts and uncles. So it is pretty great. All right, Cubsker, should I get tickets to A's Royals or to the College World Series this weekend? Well, luckily the weekend is 2 days, so you could do one day in Omaha and one day in Kansas City. Why not both? Why not both? I think if you want to see the Royals win a game, I think you should probably go down to Kansas City. The A's have been playing some horrendous baseball really over the last month and change. They started out the year surprisingly well. I think they were around 500 at 20-something and 20-something, and then they've gone like 3-20 since then. It's been the A's collapse that I think we all expected to see. Good for them for starting the year off strong, but it has certainly not gone their way for the last month and a half or so. And the College World Series is going to be an absolute blast, as it always is. Don't forget, if you're going to the College World Series, make some time, make some plans to come hang out with us at 93.7 The Ticket at Blur Parties. Check out their website. They have the ticket packages available for you. We will be there Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the shows starting at, I believe it's 11 a.m. all the way through to 6 p.m. All your local content, all your local programming will originate from Blur Parties up in Omaha at the Hilton Omaha, 1001 Cass Street, literally, and I mean literally, a block away from the stadium. If and when, I get some downtime up there at Blur, yeah, you like to relax in their lounge chairs. You like to dine on their wonderful buffet, get a nice cold drink that they offer, sit in the fans, the mist fans especially, right? They have the ice tub jacuzzi for you to cool off in. They have lawn games and yard games, and that's all fun. But sometimes you just need to get up, stretch the legs, and walk around. We are a block from the stadium. A block from the stadium there at Blur Parties. You will not miss anything if you come to Blur. In fact, you'll only enhance your experience because it's fun, it's lively, it's poppin', but it's also a big enough space that it's spread out, right? So if, it's time to go to the game, guess what? You are already a block away. All set, all good to go. Cannot recommend the people at Blur any more highly. They do a great job. We are very, very appreciative of our opportunity to hang out with them and broadcast from the Blur tailgate. While we're on the Royals here, some Royals news. They made 4 transactions just about an hour ago ahead of tonight's game against the New York Yankees. So what happened in the positive sense for the Royals is they get Lucas Erceg back from the IL. Erceg had been put on, I believe, the 10-day IL a little while ago for a lower back strain. He was really good to start the year, had a couple of down outings where he didn't look quite like himself. He's worked his way back. He will rejoin the team. That's huge for a bullpen that has been really taxed over these last few weeks with him being out of the mix. Carlos Estevez has pitched a lot. Taylor Clark, Daniel Lynch, John Schreiber, all those guys that have been so good have been maybe a little bit overextended, and some of that goes to some other news that we'll get to here in just a minute. But in addition to helping lengthen that bullpen, it's Jonathan Bolin coming back up from Omaha. Royals used him for a couple series, had to send him down to get a fresher arm, and they'll bring him back up effective today. So he'll be in Kansas City with the team, as will Lucas Erceg. That's a guy that Jake Sorensen and I go back and forth on quite a bit in our private text message conversations. One of us thinks that Lucas Erceg is best used the way the Royals are using him, as a fireman to top the bullpen, not as the closer, but as the option against other teams' best hitters in the scariest situations to put out fires that other relievers worked into. The other of us thinks that Lucas Erceg should be the closer. He's got really good velocity. He's got the best stuff. Is the most trustworthy member of that bullpen. I'll let it fall to you guys to determine who thinks what in that debate, if it wasn't already obvious. But here's the downside, okay? Cole Ragans is going back to the IL. This time the 15-day IL for a left rotator cuff strain. Ragans had gone on the injured list after a couple of subpar starts. It was a groin strain for him. Came back, pushed it a little bit, had to go back on the injured list because the injury flared up again, wasn't feeling right. Made a rehab start in AA that didn't go well. And then he came back up to the big league club, made a start, but he won't make his next start. I think he started last week, Thursday, Day, I want to say. I think it was one of the games against the Cardinals that the Cole Reagans pitched in, made his return in. Well, he's back on the injured list this time, though, not with a groin strain, not with a re-aggravation of that same injury, but with a left rotator cuff strain. It makes me uncomfortable. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. That's not good. This is a guy that the Royals pinned a lot of their hopes and dreams on that left arm of Cole Reagans. And now he's making his third IL stint, really in the last month. It's not good. It's not looking good. We certainly, wish the best for him, his recovery, hope it moves along. But man, for a team whose offense has been scuffling, to lose your ace, who hasn't really pitched like an ace for a month because of these injuries, to another one, that's a problem. Even if Cole Reagans hasn't been Cole Reagans for a few starts, he was still solid. He was still getting through. He was still getting by. And that's a big name. That's a big arm that the Royals couldn't really afford to lose. Seth Lugo has been solid enough. Not great, certainly not the level he was last year. He's been good. I'll say Seth Lugo's been good. Michael Wacha has been pretty darn reliable, steady as he goes, which is who he's been his entire life. If you look at the back of his baseball card, Michael Lorenzen had a couple blowups, but then really got back on beam against the White Sox, which was good to see. And then the revelation that Cubsker brings up is Noah Cameron, right? They gave up a missile to Judge yesterday. Yeah, it was off Noah Cameron. Cameron, a lefty, not overpowering by any sense of the imagination. He's one of those pitchability, command, control type of guys, more so than pure nasty stuff. He fell behind Aaron Judge 2-0 with the platoon disadvantage. And Aaron Judge hit a home run that a bunch of people who cover a lot of games of the Kansas City Royals said they have never seen a ball hit as far as Aaron Judge hit it at Kauffman Stadium. I believe it bounced on top of the Royals Hall of Fame, estimated at 469 feet. Yeesh. Yeah. And here's the thing. The Yankees are good. The Yankees have low-key owned the Royals, really since the 80s, right? There's some that was a rivalry back in the day when both teams were in the postseason pretty consistently, but the Royals just have not lived up to those expectations and making that a rivalry and renewing it. Certainly the ALDS was competitive last year, but the Yankees ended up winning that in 4. And then there's this stat as well. Royals played in the last 2 seasons 14 games with 30,000 or more fans in attendance at Kauffman, and they are 4-10 in those 14 games. When these big name teams, your Yankees, your Dodgers, your Mets, maybe your Red Sox, come to town, the Royals just haven't delivered. Big Slick Comedy Night wasn't that long ago. Royals lost that game against Detroit as well with a lot of people in the stands. It's just weird. It's probably nothing, but it kind of feels like it also might be something at the same time. But man, to see the Royals and Noah Cameron really get rocked for the first time in one of his starts. I mean, he was doing some stuff that only Fernando Valenzuela had done before in baseball history. Think about that. Fernando Mania. That's the guy that Noah Cameron was putting up numbers comparable to here as a rookie in his first season. It was an incredible run. Now facing a lineup like that the Yankees run out there, always going to be a tough task. And right after he gave up that missile, Noah Cameron, that is, to Aaron Judge, the next time that Judge came up, Cameron struck him out on 4 pitches, which on the one hand goes to tell you, baseball's pretty hard. Even a guy like Aaron Judge gets struck out every so often. Everybody gets got. But unfortunately, Noah Cameron wasn't able to limit the damage to just those 2 runs. It snowballed on him. He gave up 6. Royals only got a couple of them. Of course, Jack Caglione made his home debut for the Kansas City Royals last night, had an RBI ground out. And then Jonathan India actually ended up hitting a solo home run late in that one. Far too little and far too late. Cubsker throws this out. Could the Royals try to go get Brady Singer back? No, I don't think that's going to be in the cards. I think what the Royals have done, let's just start with the pitching side of things, is could they use more pitching depth? Yes, but the Royals have also done a fantastic job of getting pitchers to add a new tool to their tool belt. Brady Singer was never really on board with that. Brady Singer's a guy that came into the league with a nasty sinker, a 2-seam fastball, and a slider that he could put pretty much anywhere. And when those two pitches were rolling, Brady Singer was really good. But of course, if you just have sinker, slider, you're going to be pretty susceptible to, with Brady Singer being a righty, the opposite-handed batters in the left-handed batter's box. He never developed, a cutter really to run in on their hands horizontally like his vertical slider. He never really developed a changeup. There's a lot of talk. Could Brady Singer, break out a changeup against lefties? I don't have the data pulled up in front of me, but I think he threw it like 3% of the time last year. And for a guy like Brady Singer, whose sinker and slider can be so good when he's in a rhythm, you don't need to throw that third pitch very often, just enough to keep hitters honest. And Brady Singer just wasn't going to do that. So I don't think he was a fit for the organizational philosophy. He hasn't been good this year. His ERA is up over 4. And some of that is by nature of playing in a park that is fantastic for hitters in Great American Ballpark out there in Cincinnati. But Brady Singer was really solid for the Royals last year. His career has been every other year. So, if you look at the Brady Singer career timeline, he was due to take a step back and regress a little bit this year if he played true to the back of his baseball card. And guess what? He has so far. I also think that that's off the table because what would the Royals have to give up to get him? The guy they got him for, Jonathan India, certainly has not been everything the Royals hoped that he would be, right? He didn't come in from day one and take full grasp of that leadoff spot, but he's been a lot better over the last, I give him credit for the last 6 weeks, probably. You see Jonathan India heating up. Maikel Garcia is coming back to earth a little bit, but he's still solid. Vinny Pasquantino was just named, I think, AL Player of the Week for the work that he did on the Royals road trip to St. Louis and to play the Chicago White Sox as well. So Vinny's heating up. Really, the problem spot in the order, much as it pains me to say, is Salvador Perez. In his mid-30s, as a catcher, still playing every day without a day off. It feels like there's a little bit of fan service, of organizational loyalty to Salvador Perez that's hampering him right now. His expected stats are off the charts level good, right? Salvi has been one of the 2 unluckiest hitters in baseball by a number of metrics. And some of that is trust the process, keep running him out there. But the people I read and listen to that are closer to the team say he just looks worn down, right? He looks a little bit slower. And for a dude who's, 6'4", 6'5", 260, 270, that's going to happen at this stage of his career, especially since he's played, pretty much every day except the 1 year that he missed for injury for the better part of a decade, maybe even a decade plus at this point. Salvi is just not helping the Royals out. He's catching tonight, but he's behind the plate much less often than I think he needs to be to retain some of that analytical value. Because if you have Salvi at first base, you're forced to put, Vinny Pasquantino at DH or on the bench. Vinny is even more limited than Salvi is. And Jack Caglianone's been playing a lot of right field, which there are 2 camps to that as well. On the one hand, it's Cags played first base in college. It's where he's most comfortable. Why are you not giving him reps there, right? Or why are you not giving him many designated hitter reps when that's what he's there to do, to hit and to mash? But I listened to a podcast that Keith Law of The Athletic was on. Keith was a very well-respected MLB draft guy. And he said that people at Florida told him they would have played Jack Caglianone in the outfield, except that he also pitched. The only reason Florida parked Jack Caglianone at first base was to save his legs and to save his arm. So for all the concern that I think I've brought up a little bit of it, certainly other people have as well, the idea of Jack Caglianone in right field, in him slotting into this 2025 Royals lineup, makes a lot of sense, right? Because if he can play it even passably to where he's maybe a couple outs below average in right field, but the bat really comes along, it's good enough. But really the concern is long-term, what does this look like? Is Jack Caglianone a right fielder for this year and then they move him onto the dirt full-time, or maybe to switch off first base and DH responsibilities with Vinny Pasquantino, except that the Royals like to give Jonathan India a day off in the field to go be the designated hitter, right? Bobby Witt Jr. from time to time, especially on getaway days, right? If they play a night game and then a day game, Bobby's going to scratch and claw to be in the lineup no matter what happened the day before. Sometimes they'll need to give Bobby Witt Jr. a day just to be the designated hitter. So for the Royals who used that spot in that way, just, having a 3-man rotation at DH, catcher, and first base between Salvi, Vinny, and Cags doesn't necessarily fit with the organizational philosophy. But again, I go back to Keith Law saying that he thought Jack Caglione would be worth a shot in right field, that Florida definitely considered it, except that he was a pitcher. And I'm definitely more on board with Caglione in right field. Of course, he's at first base tonight as I pull up the Royals tweet. But if Caglione can stick in right field for 3 years, 5 years, I think he's 22 right now. If he can play right field, up to his athletic prime, if he can play right field for, I said 3 to 5, 5 to 7 years, with of course spot duty at first base, where he's probably more comfortable in days, where he's just in the batter's box being the designated hitter. Any additional value Caglione can provide in the field to, keep Vinny Pasquantino's bat in the lineup, especially as hot as it is now. If the Royals are going to keep running Salvi out there until Salvi decides to call it a career, you're going to need those at bats for him. And then Caglione can maybe move onto the dirt later in his career as he approaches 30, where the bat will certainly need to tick up from where it is, but you hope in the next 7-8 years, Caglione is very well developed as that middle of the order bat for the Royals. And it would cover the Royals' butts for how poorly they drafted outfielders, to be completely frank. Kyle Isbell in center, fine. He's been pretty much, not quite every day. I won't go that far, but he's played consistently for this team in center field since he got the call. Glove first, bat's been adequate for the level of the glove. Drew Waters they acquired in a trade. MJ Melendez they moved to the outfield far too late. John Rave has been up. Not much to quote-unquote rave about there, if you take my meaning. He's been fine, replacement level. Nick Lofton's bounced around out there. But Gavin Cross not being on this 2025 Royals team, or on the doorstep of being on this 2025 Royals team, meant that Jack Caglione had the opportunity to seize those repetitions and those plays in right field. And he has so far, right? He hasn't been a disaster. He's been perfectly adequate in right field with the leather. And I think that's a great step for him and for the Royals. If he can hold down right field for a handful of years before moving on to the dirt, I think that solves problems both now and into the future for the Royals. Ryan P., let's talk about Kris Bubic and his Cy Young candidacy. Yes, let's go ahead and do that. That is a fantastic idea, Ryan P. I love the way you think. Let me go ahead and pull up Kris Bubic's numbers here. They are absolutely incredible. Kris Bubic has been a monster. He made his debut in 2020, right? COVID year. Didn't go so well for him. 52 hits in 50 innings, ERA of 4.32, 1-6 record in 10 starts. 2021, 29 games he pitched in, 20 of them were starts, 6-7 record, 4.43 ERA. 2022, he was horrible. 3-13 record on that really bad Royals team. An ERA just south of 6 at 5.58. 129 innings, 156 hits, 110 strikeouts, but 63 walks. Then he comes back in 2023 with a slider. Problem is he only pitched 3 times before he blew out his elbow and had to go under the knife to get Tommy John surgery. Missed the rest of that year, came back to the team and pitched incredibly well for them in a bullpen role last year. He made 27 appearances for the Royals, 1-1 record, but a 2.67 ERA. And here's the incredible part. Kris Bubic, 39 strikeouts to 5 walks in 27 innings. That's incredible for a guy that was a career starter who just came off Tommy John surgery to not only pitch at all, but to be one of the most effective bullpen arms on that Royals postseason team is an incredible testament to Kris Bubic's work ethic and his adaptability. So okay, what are the Royals going to do? Certainly there's more value to the club in being a starter. And that's where they put Kris Bubic, at least to begin the year, right? They gave him the first crack with Kyle Wright not being ready quite yet, with them trading Brady Singer away and not trusting what they had in the minor leagues. Kris Bubic was one of those back the rotation guys for the Royals. He hasn't just pitched like a top of the rotation guy for this team. Dare I say, Kris Bubic has pitched like a top 5 pitcher in baseball so far this year. A couple numbers that stand out. Number one, 3.5 pitching wins above replacement. tops in the American League. 3.5 wins above replacement. The guy's made 12 starts. If you assume a pitcher is going to make an average of, 30 starts a year, if he takes the ball, 31 starts, if he takes the ball every fifth day, maybe skip a time or two with a day off, you get later in the season. I mean, you're putting Kris Bubic on pace for what would that be? 8.5, 9 wins above replacement as a pitcher. That's incredible. But you think about the names that Kris Bubic has more wins above replacement than: Tarik Skubal in his own division. Garrett Crochet just got traded out of the division. Max Fried. Kris Bubic's numbers are in line, if not better than Max Fried's of the New York Yankees in a number of ways. That's pretty incredible. Framber Valdez down there in Houston. Better numbers. Pablo Lopez in Minnesota. It's really incredible what Kris Bubic has done, and that's just the wins above replacement. His ERA is 1.43, best in baseball for a starting pitcher. Not just best in the Royals rotation, not just best in the AL Central, not just the best in the AL. A 1.43 ERA in 12 starts, in 75 innings. The man has only allowed 14 runs, and only 12 of them have been earned. In 12 appearances. That's crazy. His ERA plus, relative to the league, Kris Bubic has an ERA plus of 289. 100 is average. Kris Bubic is almost 3 times as valuable as the average American League pitcher. That is nuts. And before you say, oh, well, probably can't last. He's, pitching over his skis. He's going to come back down to earth. What if I told you his fielding independent pitching, which is the variables that pitchers control, 2.45? A lot of, more recent data analysts take a look at that and say the FIP, fielding independent pitching, is the more important number. Kris Bubic's FIP is still 2.45. There's only 1 run higher than his ERA, and a 2.45 ERA, if that's what he was running, would still be incredible. That would be an incredible full season mark, even in this era of baseball. All right, I am looking at the clock. I went a little long. We'll have a little bit of a condensed next segment, but really good Kansas City Royals discussion. And to answer Old Dad 34's question, the Royals are a game above 500 right now at 34-33. They get another crack at the nasty New York Yankees tonight, 6 o'clock pregame, 6:40 first pitch here on The Ticket. Don't go anywhere. More on the block after this.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Orman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
People always ask me, hey, Livy, what fuels you? Passion? Competition? The pursuit of greatness? None of those things. Raising Cane's is the only fuel I need. Their cooked-to-order chicken fingers always fills my tank, and the crinkle-cut fries and Texas toast are the perfect top-off for the perfect road trip. So when I'm running on fumes, I always refuel at Raising Cane's. But turns out, not everything's fueled by Cane's. Guess the old girl prefers her sauce unleaded. Raising Cane's chicken fingers. One love.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney and Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you can bring a friend anytime and so much more when you join today. You heard that right. Conquer the stair climber with your partner in climb. Enjoy a post-workout recovery session in the hydro massage and do it all again with access to any of our 2,700 convenient locations. So, you coming? Get all the perks with the PF Black Card for $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Hurry, You won't want to miss this exclusive offer. Deal ends June 13th.
See Club for details.
Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in temperature-controlled high-end wine room. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting bar. There's only one place to go for all your needs for spirits and cigars. That's Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Attention all Wings fans, Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1221 N Street, Lincoln. CordellCordell.com.
Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
We're rolling right along here during On the Block. Austin Orman here. We'll talk some NFL with Jay Foreman at 4, it sounds like. But until then, you can be part of the show, 402-464-5685. Really good Kansas City Royals discussion. I am wearing my Bobby Witt Jr. shirt today. Still a big Bobby Witt Jr. fan. Probably will never get over the fact that I'm lucky enough to watch and listen, of course, to Bobby Witt Jr. play baseball on these very airwaves. I want to make sure you are aware of Round the Bend's 32nd annual Testicle Festival. That's coming up this weekend, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. $10 cover charge. Military personnel can get into this event free. They will, of course, have the Rocky Mountain oysters available for you, Sweet Island treats and eats, shaved ice included in that, new and improved Buster the Bowl, and 12 and under aged children are free to attend as well. Of course, that's Round the Bend Steakhouse, just outside of Ashland off exit 426 there. So big shout out to TJ and his crew. Hope the setup, hope everything is going well for him and them. Definitely make an appearance there at Testicle Festival, June 14th from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. I made this comment yesterday with Strick. We had a really good discussion about it, the bird rights in college sports. And the more I thought about it, I had to think about some examples of who are some players in college sports, that would have had a bird rights, conversation with themselves and their family when it came to sticking around or transferring. And then, of course, we'll get into the Nebraska aspect of this conversation as well in just a moment. But when I think of some recent examples of players that, would have had a conversation, do I take this quote-unquote supermax that only my initial team can offer me, or is it still worth it to me to transfer? Some of those players that came to mind for me, the first one would be Carson Beck. Would Carson Beck, under this new revenue sharing system, have taken the quote-unquote supermax that Georgia could have offered him under revenue sharing, or was it still going to be worth it to Carson Beck to leave for Miami? I think that would have been a fascinating conversation to hear and to have. Similar lines, Caleb Downs, all freshman team in the SEC, standout safety from, of course, Terrell Farley, USA, Columbus, Georgia. If you're Caleb Downs, do you stick it out at Alabama under new coach Kalen DeBoer, even though Nick Saban, the guy who recruited you, helped develop and lead you in the defensive backfield, is gone? Or would it still be worth it to Caleb Downs to transfer to Ohio State for their piece of the revenue sharing pie, even if he can't get the quote unquote super max in this hypothetical example in college sports? Because maybe Caleb Downs trusts Ryan Day. Maybe he trusts Jim Knowles a little bit more. And maybe he felt he would have had a better opportunity to win a national championship at Ohio State, which of course the Buckeyes did. But a player like that, should hypothetically get a lot of money at the NFL level. So maybe it's worth it to him to take, quote unquote, normal rate for a player of his caliber and prestige by transferring to say he won a national championship instead of sticking it out at Alabama. Then speaking of Alabama as well, what about a guy like Caden Proctor, who jumped in the transfer portal, jumped on a plane or in a car, made the trip to Iowa City, and then went right back to Tuscaloosa? How would a situation like that work in the revenue sharing era if these teams had their quote unquote bird rights for these players, where they could extend them or pay them over the cap to retain them had they been in college for a couple of years at the same place? Would Caden Proctor, who ultimately ended up going to Alabama, pump faking Iowa and then back to Bama, would he have been penalized? Would he have lost his bird rights for having entered the transfer portal and, gone to Iowa? Would that be free agency? Because the bird rights really tie into extensions. New contracts sometimes in free agency, but most often it's the team that originally drafts the player, that gets to exercise those full bird rights on a player. So would Alabama have retained Caden Proctor's bird rights after his standout freshman year at left tackle? Or would they have gone away? And Caden Proctor couldn't have fully profited in the revenue sharing era until he played, another 2 seasons consecutively at Alabama under this mindset. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it comes to college sports anytime soon, but I do think it'd be a really fun idea to tamp down on the transfer portal to keep players in place, which again, there are certainly plenty of logical and understandable reasons that players would transfer. But for those who are out there chasing the bag and chasing the money, I think a lot of people would be more comfortable with these athletes getting that money from revenue sharing at the first institution they committed to, as long as there aren't mitigating circumstances on the outside. Which brings us back home to Nebraska here in the last couple minutes of this segment. Just a couple of interesting, examples of Nebraska and what a quote-unquote supermax would have looked like. Let's say, 5-6 years ago, okay, maybe not that long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, sorry. When it came down to Nebraska could have bird rights on one player on its entire football roster. Would you rather have broken the bank for quarterback Adrian Martinez or wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson? Because, of course, we know that Wan'Dale Robinson ended up transferring out of Nebraska to go to Kentucky. If under the system with bird rights, would it have been worth it to Nebraska to offer Wan'Dale Robinson the most money on the team to stick around Lincoln? Or would Wan'Dale have still seen the writing on the wall, not like the way that he was being used on offense, and said, you know what, I appreciate the offer, money would be nice, but I think I trust Kentucky with the rest of my development. I'm headed back home. I'll get my money NFL side. And then it comes down to, who captains, right? Who's the best player on the team? Was that Adrian Martinez those years? There's an argument to be made for it. But then the other interesting conversation, obviously in the NBA where bird rights do exist, the players that supermax out their bird rights with the, designated veteran super maximum or even the Rose Rule rookie supermax, those players are obviously studs and they're obviously being paid by the same team that drafted them. But more often than not, they're the best players on their team, right? You think about all these guys that are signing supermaxes time and time again. You think about Steph, you think about LeBron, you think about Giannis, you think about Joker. And of course, there's another wave of players coming up. But for a program like Nebraska, or you can throw in any college football program, but I would be really curious to see under this bird rights system, if schools would use it to pay the most amount of money possible to their best player, who may or may not be a flight risk, right? I think in this transfer portal era, any player is a flight risk to some degree. Would it be worth it to say, yep, here's the person that we're designating as the best player on our team. They bring in the most eyeballs. They make the most plays for us. They have the best stats, whatever it is. Do we give that player the money that we think they deserve for being the best player? Or would you allocate some of that money and designate your quote unquote bird rights player as the best player that you think is liable to leave you in the transfer portal? In that Adrian versus Wan'Dale discussion, of course, they both transferred, so it becomes somewhat moot in the end. But of course, Wan'Dale transferred out before Adrian Martinez. So could Nebraska have offered Wan'Dale Robinson, just for that 1 year, more money because he was the bigger flight risk then, to say, hey, we're designating you as the player that we're giving the most money to. Trust us, stick around, trust our process, trust our plan, and we'll make it worth your while monetarily. By all reports, Adrian Martinez is a good guy. I don't think he would have taken that as a slap in the face. But would it have made it easier for a Kansas State, for example, to pry Adrian Martinez away from Nebraska if they say, hey, you're the quarterback. We're going to pay you the most money in our team, right? We're going to run things like the NFL. You're the best player, the most important piece of the success. You get the most money. Or if Adrian says, no, you know what? I'm good at Nebraska. I trust the process. I got my best playmaker back. I'm going to keep throwing him the ball since he's around. I'm happy where I'm at. Maybe Wan'Dale takes the Supermax, says, money's not worth it. I'm going to dip and hit Kentucky up after the season. Well, then could Nebraska, with the bird rights player available, would it have been a good investment, a wise investment, a smart investment to say, okay, Adrian, you stuck around. You've been the loyal soldier. You're still putting up pretty good stats. We believe in you. We want you to keep leading this offense forward. Here's your Supermax this year. And of course, I know there's a lot of revisionist history in there because, of course, Adrian Martinez didn't hold on to a starting job the whole time. There's the Logan Smothers and Luke McCaffrey experiments in there sprinkled throughout that time. But I would be really curious to see which franchises, of course, I say that meaning college athletic departments, would operate in pay our best player the most amount of money because we need to keep them, and which teams are comfortable with their best players staying in place and taking, quote unquote, regular money to be able to keep a player around that they like to play with, they understand the value of, that is maybe more liable to leave in the transfer portal. So I just think that's a really interesting discussion. Old Dad 34 says Wan'Dale would have left anyway because of how he was being used. I tend to agree, which is why this is a hypothetical sort of conversation. But it's also, I think it's fun to wonder, had the money structure in college athletics been different, would Wan'Dale Robinson have stuck around in pursuit of getting the Supermax from Nebraska, where maybe the Kentucky football situation was better? But that's not to say Nebraska's was terrible, horrible, awful, no good, right? I think a lot of players, Strix talked about his time in Vancouver, right? Players will take any amount of money to get out of a place that they don't want to be. But players will also take enough money in a good enough situation, right? There's a point, there's a trade-off for each player and each team where, okay, Wan'Dale says, Kentucky's program is up here for football and Nebraska's maybe like right here. But moving's a lot. There's a lot of expectations there at Kentucky. I'm comfortable with Adrian. I want to stick around. Does the Supermax at Nebraska nudge the situation up closer to on par with Kentucky, where maybe it's not everything he dreamed of and more at Nebraska in a football sense, but because he's getting the money, he's still, satisfied enough, willing enough to stick around and put the work in at Nebraska because it's good enough. Not perfect, not great, but good enough. I think it's a really interesting thought exercise. Let's go ahead and take our final break of the hour. We'll talk some NFL minicamp headlines with Jay Foreman and have a Husker baseball conversation with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. That's all coming up at 4, but we'll wrap up hour 1 of On the Block momentarily.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Allo Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela. They let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
Batter up! Join us this summer at Haymarket Park for 50 action-packed Salt Dogs games running now through August. Visit saltdogs.com for updates on everything you need to know about weekly promotions, giveaways, and special events. That's where you'll find the latest updates to make sure you catch all the excitement and never miss a homestand you want to attend. Haymarket Park is your ticket to fun all summer long. Visit saltdogs.com to get your tickets and unleash the fun.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Schwieso Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schwieso Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schwieso.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see mainly sunny skies. It'll be breezy and hot with an afternoon high near 95. Tonight, mainly clear skies and a continued breeze, low around 67. And tomorrow, we'll see mainly sunny skies. It'll be breezy and hot again with the high near 90. I'm meteorologist Kyle Gluck for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Now's the best time to lock in early order savings on a new John Deere planter from Landmark Implement during the early order program. Plant for success with the latest technology, including Exact Emerge high-speed planters that help you cover more acres with greater precision and productivity. Order your planter for next year now to unlock the biggest savings of the season. Contact your local Landmark location today and experience the Landmark difference.
Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
One final segment here for hour one of On the Block. Austin Orman with you here, brought to you, of course, by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese Special Ingredient Butcher Shop with 3 Lincoln locations and 1 up in Omaha, or you can check them out online at themercadobutcher.com. Learn what's up with Fired Up Thursdays and Fired Up Fridays coming up over the next couple of days. Joined in studio now by Jake Bakoven. Jake, first of all, how was Schwieso?
Oh, it was fantastic out there. Good experience. They have a huge fan, so I didn't get too hot out there, and we were sitting inside, and it looks like, they're 40 years down. Looks like they've got at least 40 ahead of them. So fantastic business, doing great stuff, and it was good to kind of get the community feel out there as well with the Lincoln Food Bank. So it was a fun time.
Did you see a batting cage suspended from the ceiling by any chance?
I didn't see anything like that.
Bummer. It means Mr. Blum must have gotten rid of it, which is too bad. Big shout out to Schwieso Construction, sponsor here at the station. They sponsored Lincoln Lutheran's Legion baseball team back in the day. So I played with Andrew, who's I think their finance manager Back in the day, he was one of my roommates in college. So,
okay.
Yeah, bummed I couldn't be out there, but sounds like it was a blast. Brought you on for some NBA trade ideas revolving. There's the word I was looking for. Around one, Kevin Durant. There's been a number of teams that have expressed interest, for a guy that's still maybe not at the top of his game, but not far from it. Here's the number of the teams that have reached out to, maybe not the Suns, but especially to Kevin Durant and his representation over the last month or so. Houston, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota, and the Knicks. Any of those stand out in a positive or negative way to you?
Obviously, Miami always stands out with Pat Riley there and Eric Spoelstra. I mean, if they could get another guy, and they just happen to be pretty much open right now because Jimmy Butler left as their franchise player. So that one would be very intriguing because I know that they can, as from a GM and head coach standpoint, support him with what he needs, which he has not been able to get in some of his previous stops. I think all that's kind of the fascinating conversation behind this is he your number one? Can he be your number one to go get a title in Miami? He certainly would be that. Minnesota, I mean, obviously, I think immediately of the teams that are in contention, what would that look like in Minnesota? Could you keep all those contracts on board? Who would you have to get rid of? But obviously, a pairing with Ant would be fantastic, and they wouldn't be moving him to get Durant in. So those ones more so than others, I think, stand out to me.
Westy on our text line, brought to you by Starter Heyman Jewelers, says, saw a hypothetical for Houston and I would hate it. Houston does intrigue me just because of how hard they made putting the orange ball into the orange circle look at times last year. If you imagine with me a world in which Houston probably swaps out Alperen Şengün, which would hurt, and Jabari Smith Jr. for Kevin Durant. Maybe Jalen Green gets shipped out to Phoenix if they want a building block. I wouldn't love that fit with Devin Booker already on the roster, but it's at least an upside swing for a guy that's still young and has shown flashes, maybe not a whole lot. Houston intrigues me. Minnesota would be wild if he ends up there, from Kevin Garnett to Kevin Durant. I don't know about that one. The other one that I think to keep an eye on is San Antonio. Right. Obviously, there's a pre-existing relationship with Popovich and Durant down there. Of course, Popovich is out, but he's president and GM in a lot of ways. So he's still in the building. It's just going to be interesting to see how San Antonio handles these early Victor Wembanyama years. Of course, he's super young still. Missed the end of last year with that deep vein thrombosis, the blood clotting issue. San Antonio isn't an all-in every year with assets and resources sort of team. They have a lot. Obviously, they tanked to get Wemby. Didn't have a great year. They get Stephon Castle the next year, or a later pick, the next year. And so when you have a game-warping, floor-altering talent like Wembanyama, maybe you are just one other superstar away. But if you're San Antonio, you never, no matter who you are in the NBA, have unlimited resources. So you really, I think, got to time when your home run swings are. Because if Wemby's your new age Tim Duncan, whatever it is, you don't have Parker and Ginobili in yet. If you think you can find them, maybe you stay the course. But if you think, Wemby's going to be healthy and good enough next year, maybe you do go all in and you take this first swing, this first major bite at the apple with Kevin Durant, who's certainly in the twilight of his career.
Yeah, it's so fascinating on multiple levels. Like you said, obviously they were somehow with Popovich and Duncan and those guys able to make that, make the historic run that they have, but they're never going to be a free agent destination. It's hardly going to be the top, top as far as drawing eyeballs unless you've got somebody there. So I would kind of, it's kind of like Giannis in Milwaukee, where they were able to win enough to keep him in town. And now there's talk about him wanting to leave and all that. But that's why I would say if I was them, you got to strike now. I mean, you can't plan for 5 years from now, because after his first contract, he might be looking for more than San Antonio can give him. And obviously, Durant Wembanyama, talk about length, would be interesting. Tough to get to all the way to the bucket with that, but that would be fascinating. That's not one that stood out to me immediately, just because they're not currently contender type mode. And I suppose Miami's not either. It's just the people involved there. But that would definitely be one of my favorites to see him land. The other thing is that's interesting in the backdrop of all this is that he's, are you going to get him for a rental? Are you going to be able to sign him? Because his contract only goes through this next season. So is somebody out there, or whoever lands him, is this, obviously with KD, it's win now mode because of his age, but is it literally like this season, this is where we're pushing all the chips in? Or is it this could be, let's give it another go of putting him together with some stars and see him in the next 3 or 4 years, have him re-sign and see what we can do. So it's just fascinating to see all these options out there. And it's no surprise that when Kevin Durant becomes available, there's half the leagues raising their hands saying, yeah, well, we don't even know how to make this work, but we're interested. At least give us insight on what you're looking for.
Right. So for Durant, his last year, the contract that you just mentioned, $54.7 million for 25-26. And then this is according to ESPN, just going to rip a paragraph from them. Once he is traded, Durant will be eligible to sign a 2-year contract extension on July 6th, worth as much as $112 million. But if he were to wait 6 months after the trade, which would take you to, well, at this point, it would be December or potentially January, he could sign a 2-year extension worth an extra $6 million per year, taking him up to $124 million. Here's the other interesting part. The NBA free agency market resets in the summer of 2026, with teams that have cap space increasing from just one this offseason, the Nets. He's not going back there.
No.
We know that. To 15 of the league's 30 teams will have cap space open in the summer of 2026 as it stands right now, which makes pretty much everyone except apparently Phoenix potentially a player for KD. Do we see KD go back home to Washington maybe just for kicks and gigs?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously there's a few teams he's just ruling out that he's been to. Golden State had the opportunity. He turned that down to reunite there to play with Phoenix. And then the other part that's interesting is just that Phoenix, from where they were to where they are now, and that's kind of where the question is kind of posting. The move was to KD and bring him in and elevate him and all that. Obviously Ayton and Chris Paul, some of the guys that made that run special a couple years ago, now gone. And so they're kind of left in a mess. The Nets were kind of left in a mess once, the Harden and KD thing worked.
Kyrie.
So it's almost, you obviously get excited, and his true shooting percentage, all that stuff is top of the league. He's still that guy. But he just hasn't left the last two places in very good standings once he's leaving. So I wonder how much of that factors into maybe a few teams not being all that interested at this point and say, we've seen enough of KD. And that's why, again, it's fascinating to see as long as what he wants to do is, does he want to be the number one guy, or do he want to go to a contender and kind of add some championships here late in his career?
And see, that's where I think it was really interesting for Kevin Durant, because I don't think he's a number one personality. I think he's a number one player, which is where it worked out so well in Golden State, where he could win finals MVP and be the missing piece that pushed them over the edge. But everyone knew it was Steph's team. KD wasn't, as much as he was responsible for the title, he wasn't responsible for the leadership of the team. I'm not saying he can't do it, just hasn't been his preferred role yet. I just don't know if he'll find a situation like that unless, maybe it is Ant in Minnesota, where KD can still be maybe the better player, but Ant can handle the headlines and the leadership of the team. So it'll be interesting to see. Bach, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's always fun to talk some NBA.
Absolutely, outside of the GOAT debate. But we can have that some other time on the show. We'll go to break. Jay Foreman talking some NFL with us during On the Block to lead off hour 2.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Orman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
Shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Advanced Medical Imaging is the largest radiology group in Nebraska, located in Lincoln at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. At Advanced Medical Imaging, they utilize state-of-the-art technology and blend it together with their compassionate, skilled team to guide you through every step. Whether it's an MRI, CT scan, or X-ray, their precise diagnostics help your doctor deliver the best care plan for you. Choose clarity and comfort in your life by choosing Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard and online at amimaging.com.
Attention all Wings fans, Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Make sure you tune in every Saturday from 11 to 12 for all things youth football with Tank Perry and Jim Sandman. Learn how the game of youth football has grown in and around the capital city with coaches, athletic directors, and league commissioners telling you all about it. It's all things youth football with Tank Perry and Jim Sandman every Saturday from 11 to noon right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you can bring a friend anytime and so much more when you join today. You heard that right. Conquer the stair climber with your partner in climb. Enjoy a post-workout recovery session in the hydro massage and do it all again with access to any of our 2,700 convenient locations. So, you coming? Get all the perks with the PF Black Card for $1 down and $24.99 a month.
Hurry, you won't want to miss this exclusive offer. Deal ends June 13th.
See Club for details.
This is On the Block with Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer, Jay Foreman. Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Orman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
Here we go, hour 2 of On the Block here on a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Wednesday in the capital city. We're here at 1040 O Street Ticket HQ. Of course, we're joined with our friends at The Mill. Appreciate them for everything they do for us here at The Ticket. I'm Austin Norman, Jay Foreman. I'll be calling in here in just a second. Lots of NFL to talk to with him, including a couple of training camp standoffs between some star edge rushers, Trey Hendrickson and TJ Watt. Certainly plenty of other storylines to go over for the NFL, so we'll go through some of those and some big news in the SEC ACC Challenge. Would love to get to that and talk about that here in a few minutes as well. As always, though, 402-464-5685. I'm going to ask the text line this question first before we get going. Who would you rather sign to a new contract for your NFL team? Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt? Let me know, 402-464-5685. As always, though, a big thank you to the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. for their sponsorship of the show. Check out their selections online at themercadobutcher.com or at any of their 4 local locations, 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, or 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or also at 168th and Maple up in Omaha. You can go to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. Don't forget, in about 25 minutes, we'll have Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald along. I know there's been some consternation from some on the text line about Nebraska baseball and all the departures in the transfer portal. We'll talk to Evan about that, who the Huskers have gained in the transfer portal, a couple additions from there already as well. But we're on the NFL for now as we go to our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Cubsker, resident Steelers fan, says, Pittsburgh needs to hand TJ a blank check that says, we love you. Love is probably on the memo line, I would hope, right? You probably say, yep, memos, we love you. And the number is right here on the line. If that's what you want to do for Pittsburgh. Of course, TJ Watt has been one of the most accomplished players in the NFL over the last handful of years, maybe even a little bit more. When you look at what TJ Watt has done as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, it's the only place that he's played in the NFL. 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 2021 Defensive Player of the Year. He's got 108 career sacks in 121 career games, has also forced 33 fumbles. He's obviously been an incredible player playing that outside linebacker position for Pittsburgh. Been pretty darn available as well. There's only been one season he's played fewer than 15 games. That was back in 2022 when he got 5.5 sacks in 10 games. He's led the league in sacks 3 times, led the league in forced fumbles once, and in tackles for loss twice as well. Ryan P. on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line says, I feel like TJ would bring a bigger impact to the team. Okay, so we got 2 votes for TJ Watt so far, which I think is completely understandable. When you look at TJ Watt, he's 30 years old. He will turn 31 early in this coming 2025-26 NFL season. On the flip side of that, you have Trey Hendrickson, who is also 30 and will be turning 31 in the middle of the season, but his birthday is in December. So 2 guys that are essentially the same age, just a couple of months of difference between them. Trey Hendrickson, 4-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. That's pretty darn good. But if you look at what he's done, he's been a Pro Bowler the last 4 years. He was solid in New Orleans, right? He had 13.5 sacks in his final year there before he made his way to Cincy. And then in his prime, right, 27, 28, 29, 30, 14 sacks in 16 games, 8 sacks in 15 games, and then back-to-back years with 17.5 sacks in 17 games. So more than a sack a game for Trey Hendrickson over the last 2 seasons. Of course, he did lead the NFL in sacks last year with that 17.5 number. Not quite as disruptive as TJ Watt when it comes to forcing fumbles. Only 14 of them in his career, when as you look at TJ Watt, he's forced 33 fumbles, and they've played the same number of seasons in the league. So on the one hand, yeah, I think I would probably lean toward TJ Watt as well, who, of course, didn't report to minicamp as he looked for that new contract. So we'll be interested to see which one of those AFC North teams goes after it. Mike Tomlin said, certainly we'd like him to be here, but certainly not surprised by where we are. We've expressed the desire to get the business done. He has as well, and so we'll continue to work. We've been here before. Of course, TJ Watt was a member of a hold-in back in 2021. That was right before arguably the best year of his career. I would say almost without a doubt the best year of his career. Played in 15 games, defended 7 passes, forced 5 fumbles. But of course, the most important number is 22.5 sacks and 21 tackles for loss. TJ Watt was in the backfield constantly, Pro Bowler, AP first teamer, AP defensive player of the year winner that year as well. So this isn't anything new for the Steelers and TJ Watt. So they've been here before. The real question is, what's the number and for how long, I think, for TJ Watt? Because I wouldn't look for Pittsburgh to trade him. I don't think that's what Pittsburgh does to these franchise staple types of guys, right? Pittsburgh either walks away from the table when the price gets too much, but they're not going to not going to trade a guy, I don't think, of TJ Watt's caliber at the very least. If they do, it wouldn't be the worst decision. But I think that with TJ Watt looking for a new deal, they'd probably just let him, play out this year, hold in, whatever it is, and then say, go get him next year. On the flip side of things for Trey Hendrickson, of course, he was a really good young player in New Orleans, broke out in his 4th year. With Hendrickson's holdout, he's being fined per the CBA for missing mandatory minicamp, as is TJ Watt. Of course, Hendrickson is in the final year of the deal that he signed back in 2023. He has a year and $16 million remaining left on his contract. 35 sacks over the last 2 years are the most in the NFL. Second in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year for Trey Hendrickson. And then Cubsker brings this up. It's got to be at least 5 to 10 million more than what Myles Garrett got. And I think both these guys are looking to top that number. But of course, Myles Garrett wasn't the only, guy that signed a deal of that caliber. Danielle Hunter signed one for $35.6 million and Max Crosby $35.5 million. And it's really interesting to take a look at, those names. Max Crosby, I certainly want to look up to get his numbers here because he's in that comparison as well. Crosby is a couple years younger. He's 27, almost going to be 28 here, just right before the start of the season. Only 7.5 sacks last year in 12 games. He's got 59.5 career sacks in 6 seasons of work. He's led the league in tackles for loss in 22 and 23. Never won Defensive Player of the Year, but of his 6 seasons, he's been a Pro Bowler 4 of them. The other name there, I think Danielle Hunter is good. I wouldn't put him quite on the same level, though, as a Max Crosby or even a Myles Garrett, right? 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro for Myles Garrett, 2023 Defensive Player of the Year, won it twice from Sporting News as well. 102.5 career sacks in 117 games for Myles Garrett. Finished one spot behind Hendrickson in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year, Pro Bowler, All-Pro first team as well. It was actually Myles Garrett that led the league in tackles for loss last year with 22 of them and 14 sacks. In fact, dating back to his rookie year when he only played 11 games, that's the only time Myles Garrett has failed to register double-digit sacks. Now, he did cut it close in 2019 when he got 10, but he's been Mr. Consistent. 13.5, 10, 12, 16, 16, 14, 14. Myles Garrett is that proven commodity on the edge for the Cleveland Browns. And for my money, he's the best pass rusher in the NFL. It's going to be really crazy to watch and see if Trey Hendrickson, who I know has more sacks, but I think Myles Garrett, it just feels like he has more of a track record to me. I would think Myles Garrett deserves the biggest contract for a pass rusher in the NFL. Max Crosby, Danielle Hunter certainly deserve that money. TJ Watt's right there in that Myles Garrett range, though. And there's certainly been fewer issues, I think, with TJ Watt than there have with Myles Garrett in terms of organizationally. Myles Garrett, demanding a trade till he gets the bag, certainly within his rights to do so and head that direction. In terms of the age, like I said, TJ Watt's about to be 31. Myles Garrett is just about to be 30. He'll turn 30 on December 29th of this year. So comparable age, 1 year younger, essentially, though, for Myles Garrett. I still think that TJ Watt should match Myles Garrett or maybe be slightly under. But of course, the way money works in the NFL, the most recent person to sign the deal probably gets the bigger one. So if I had to guess, TJ Watt does end up with the biggest contract for an edge rusher in terms of average annual value. Myles Garrett is at $40 million. If you're the Steelers, do you have to bump that up a full mil to $41 million a year? Can you make it work at $40.5 million per year? Or does TJ Watt just want that little feather in his cap saying, yeah, I'm making more than Myles Garrett. I think that's a mark of respect. So I'll take $40.1 million in terms of the average annual value. That's going to be really interesting to monitor, to see how those teams go with the flow there, or if they can cut against the current. I think TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson both deserve to be paid. I think Trey Hendrickson will be traded before TJ Watt is, though. I think that's where I fall on that. Let's go over some other NFL minicamp sort of headlines. Big thanks to the Athletics here or the Athletic rather, for their headlines, what they're thinking of. Another one, right? Kirk Cousins with Aaron Rodgers having signed with Pittsburgh. What does the future hold for Kirk Cousins? By all accounts, good dude, good teammate. Teammates seem to like him. Is that a guy that has it in him to throw a stink in the locker room and go somewhere, anywhere that's not Atlanta? Or is he going to compete? Is he going to do his best to beat out Michael Penix Jr. in that room? I mean, Cousins is going to be 37 here pretty soon. He's stated that he would prefer to be traded to a team in need of a starter because that's how he views himself. Skipped OTAs, and we'll see with minicamp upon us, will Kirk Cousins show up? But the Falcons right now, they'll listen to offers, but they're saying that they view Cousins as their backup with Penix as the starter. But of course, Penix is still relatively raw, still relatively young, especially in terms of NFL starting experience. Older prospect, but young in NFL years. And he's been banged up, right? In college, had that knee injury that sidelined him. So for the Falcons, it makes a lot of sense to be able to keep Kirk Cousins, have him on retainer, and say, hey, you know what, Kirk, you can still do a lot of good for us. Every team would want a guy like that. Except that most teams, what they end up getting is a guy who, certainly is ready, competing, and willing to take on the challenge of playing if his number gets called. But also they understand the position that they're walking into, right? There's not as many true quarterback battles in the NFL, right? I mean, think about Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. That's a legitimate competition. But a guy like Kirk Cousins that views himself as being a starter, obviously Michael Penix does too. That's what he's being told by Atlanta, and that's how they see him. There's more value for Atlanta in Kirk Cousins being a backup than Kirk Cousins sees in it for him. And I'll be curious to see how that continues to develop, because Kirk Cousins just wasn't that great last year. The anticipation wasn't there. The arm strength was certainly dwindling as well. So will it take an attitude shift from Kirk Cousins to say, you know what, I accept my role as backup. Doesn't mean I'm going to, mail it in. It's not that I'm not going to work hard, but I understand that the Falcons want to go this direction with Michael Penix. I'm here to support him. I'm here to pick him up. I'm here to teach him. And if he stumbles, he falters, he needs a sack, then yeah, I'm there. I got his back for his sake, obviously, right? For the sake of the franchise that signed me to this big deal, gave a lot of guaranteed money to me, and, to myself, right? To not cheat myself out of reps just because I'm upset I'm not the starter. Kirk Cousins is a fine quarterback. He's a good enough quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. And I don't think that's a guy that's in any sort of position to be, making demands of the Atlanta Falcons to say I'm the starter or else. I think he's well within his rights to voice his concern, say, hey, after what I've done for this organization, after what you invested in me, you did a really, non-traditional move in drafting a rookie quarterback right after signing me. I've handled it well. I've handled it like a pro. This isn't how, franchise quarterbacks like you're paying me as. That's not how they get treated by other organizations. What's up, right? It's fine to ask those questions. It's fine to ask those conversations. I'd just be really curious to see what the spillover in the flow is on the field and how it goes for Kirk Cousins, for Michael Penix Jr. And then let's get here to the quarterback competitions that the Athletic is throwing out there. The Cleveland Browns, obviously with the crowded quarterback room, they have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. Woo! That's a room. If you're the Falcons, do you try to extract, one of those guys to be the backup behind Michael Penix and give them Kirk Cousins? Can the Browns even afford to take on, that sort of money at the quarterback position after they just paid Myles Garrett? I don't think that's going to be an option. But I also think I like Kirk Cousins, at least for the first month or two of the season, better than I like any of those other options that Cleveland has. So even though it won't happen, that doesn't mean I don't think it's not worth a look if you're both the Browns and the Falcons. You think about New Orleans, right? With the Saints, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck. I think Jake Haener, the Fresno State product, is still there as well. Could the Saints be a landing spot? If they don't like what they see from Spencer Rattler, if they don't like Tyler Shuck in year one, right, as a rookie, Could the Saints try to swing a trade in the division for Kirk Cousins? Obviously, teams are always a little hesitant to trade with teams in their division. On the one hand, it's just business. On the other hand, sometimes it's deeper than football. You don't want to trade with a rival, a team in your division just on principle. So I really thought that New Orleans could have been an interesting fit for Kirk Cousins, but I'm guessing that ship has pretty much sailed. Then you look at the Colts, right? I mentioned Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Richardson, of course, went back to the specialist that worked on his shoulder, gave him surgery a couple of years ago. And it went back with the AC joint inflammation, I believe it was, for Anthony Richardson. Got a second opinion. He's shut down till further notice. We don't know when it is that Anthony Richardson will be back playing for the Colts, which makes them signing Daniel Jones a minor miracle. Good job. You did the smart thing, the logical thing, and got a backup who is very much not the same player as Anthony Richardson, but can be used in some similar ways. Anthony Richardson has a much bigger arm than Daniel Jones. I'm not going to say anything groundbreaking here, but you look at Daniel Jones, more accurate than Anthony Richardson, which isn't saying much again, as Anthony Richardson is one of the least accurate quarterbacks through this point of his career in NFL history, right? It's kind of crazy how inaccurate he's been throughout his career. So to have a guy that can run the ball like Anthony Richardson, maybe not the exact same play calling style when it comes to running the football, but certainly a weapon on the ground paired with Jonathan Taylor. What are the Colts looking to get out of that offense? And then, of course, up in New York, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. What does that look like for those two guys as they presumably keep the seat warm for rookie Jackson Dart, who the Giants traded back into the first round to get? The Giants are just in such a fascinating situation right now. They had their run to the playoffs a couple years ago with Brian Daboll, and then it just hasn't been able to repeat itself since then. I think they beat the Vikings, that fluky kind of Vikings team that was super good in one-score games, and then the Giants got bounced in the next round. That's an organization that's in an extremely tough division. You look at what Philly, has done and is doing still. Philly's been pretty incredible over the last handful of years. You look at Washington. Are they for real? Do you believe in them? Was last year the fluke? Or can the Commanders make that happen year after year? Is Jayden Daniels the next it guy at the quarterback position in the NFL? We'll have to see. And then the Cowboys. Rarely in it, never out of it, might be how I describe the Cowboys. You got to know they're not happy with the way that last year went. They've lost some major pieces. They've still got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb around, and that's a pretty good base and floor to build off of. But do you really expect, can you even hope that the Giants will be better than any of those three teams this coming year? No, I don't think you can. I think that the Giants right now are the cellar dwellers in the NFC East, really until further notice, until Dallas blows it up. If, something wildly tragic happens in Washington, and I think Philly, not future-proof, right? No team in the NFL is future-proof, but I think you're really banking on a Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley regression. And I think Hurts plays his role well. I think Barkley knows who he is, what it is he does well. They got a fantastic offensive line. A reloading maybe defense would be the better way to phrase it, but I think it will still certainly be formidable enough to cause problems for opponents. I just don't see any way out of the cellar for the Giants this year. I just don't think it's in the cards. But then, of course, the conversation will turn to if the Giants are at or near the bottom of the league, and they traded into the first round, to go get Jackson Dart. Will he have taken over as the starting quarterback at some point so they can see what he can do and not do? Or if the Giants are at that top of the first round, do they get tempted to take a quarterback again? Or do they keep filling out their roster, by trading back and getting more value type picks, right? Getting more, early part of the middle first rounders, because I think the Giants have probably the most holes of any team in the NFC East right now. Without knowing the rosters like the back of my hand, I would feel pretty comfortable in saying that. So it'll be interesting to see, which direction the Giants go at quarterback, how long that decision lasts, and ultimately what the fallout is, what comes of it for Jackson Dart, if he's legit or if he's just going to end up riding the pine for the rest of his career. Let's go ahead and take a break here. We'll get Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald on the phone. Still some stuff to go over when it relates to Husker baseball, some player movement, some concerns from fans. We'll get Evan's thoughts on that. Probably some Husker football and some recruiting insights from him as well. All that ahead during On the Block.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off Cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. Take control of your health with the DASH scan at Advanced Medical Imaging. The DASH scan is a full-body MRI designed for advanced health screening. This dynamic approach provides exceptionally sharp images across multiple organ systems, helping to detect potential concerns early. With minimal radiation and no invasive procedures, the DASH scan offers a safe, comprehensive look at your health. Plus, results are delivered faster than ever, giving both patients and physicians confidence in screening and diagnosis. Your health is too important to wait. Schedule your DASH scan today at Advanced Medical Imaging. Visit amimaging.com or call 402-484-6677 to learn more.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Be at the 32nd Annual Testicle Festival for live music and, of course, balls. It's at Round the Bend Steakhouse in Ashland, June 14th from 11 to 10. Take I-80 exit 426, roundthebendsteakhouse.com.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled high-end wine room. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting bar. There's only one place to go for all your needs for spirits and cigars. That's Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Schweizo Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schweizo Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schweizo.com. That's schwissow.com.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Allo Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela, they let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit allofiber.com to switch today.
Country music star Rodney Atkins will be performing at the Icebox on Friday, June 20th. Tickets start at $30 and doors open at 7 p.m. The capacity is only 3,000, so don't wait. Buy your tickets at lincolnstars.com today before it sells out.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza, the big one. all the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa,
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend. Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
This is On the Block. It's 4:30 on a Wednesday, which means we're headed to our Allo Fiber VIP line. We'll welcome in Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Evan, happy Wednesday and happy College World Series week. What do you think of the field?
Yeah, happy College World Series week. It's very eclectic, and I wasn't sure it would be, but the year after you have 4 SEC and 4 ACC teams to have 7 different conferences represented and from a bunch of different parts of the country, I think it's pretty exciting. Yeah, we can get into some of the details, but it's I think refreshing in a lot of ways. You have some underdogs, some brand names, should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I think the matchup that has a lot of people's attention is one that we get right out the gate. The one portion of the bracket that worked out the way you would think based on the seeding is the 3-6 matchup between Arkansas and LSU. I think there's a couple interesting angles. Obviously, Omaha downtown business owners rejoice that those two familiar faces will be in town, familiar with the surroundings. But, Dave Van Horn still hasn't gotten over the hump with the College World Series championship. His Razorbacks are the highest remaining team in the field, but kind of just like the Super Regionals, they got one of the toughest tests ahead of them here in the first round against LSU. Who do you like in that matchup? Which team do you think might be better built for Omaha between the Omahogs and the Tigers?
Yeah, I think odds makers seem like they're pretty split on it. I mean, they're clearly the two betting favorites. I think they're the two deepest teams. Clearly, they've gone through the SEC gauntlet and come out the other side. LSU is interesting because you look at their regional and you say, man, they barely got past Little Rock, and it took them a late rally in a do-or-die game just to make a super regional. But then you just kind of wonder, maybe that was their mulligan that they were able to push through, and now they're rolling. I think they have some of the highest upside pitching with Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, and just an embarrassment of riches in the bullpen, to say nothing of what they have with their lineup. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas with Root, Zach Root is their ace, and they're awfully deep as well. And they've just been, I think they're the most balanced team. I mean, they have the pitching, the hitting, the defense, I think, is one of the best in the field too. And like you said, they had to go through Tennessee just to get to this point. So when you look at like what game should have that Saturday night billing in terms of television and crowds, like it's kind of a no-brainer that would be the game that you'd put on there. I mean, those two fan bases are going to invade Omaha like they always do. LSU does it when the Tigers aren't in the field, so they're definitely going to do it now. They got a taste after that championship a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be a fun one, and one of those games where the loser, I don't think you can count them out for coming back and making a run too.
That's maybe the headlining game. Maybe the nostalgia game is the championship matchup from 2016, Coastal Carolina and Arizona. Arizona, of course, comes back from down 1-0 in the series in Chapel Hill to beat the Tar Heels. But Coastal Carolina, Evan, I didn't realize this, hasn't lost since the end of April. The Chanticleers are the hottest team in baseball right now.
Yeah, 23-game win streak coming to Omaha. I haven't done the research on like where that stacks up, but it's got to be right near the top of like hottest teams to come in. And I mean, you got to be overflowing with confidence. And yeah, everyone remembers the chants from 2016 and the run that they made. They were really the last kind of non-traditional power to dogpile in Omaha, and now here they are fittingly facing Arizona again right out of the chute. And Arizona probably wasn't necessarily expecting to be here, but that's a team that has some history here too, that has a fan base I think that'll represent decently well. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about with LSU Arkansas, which is, this is a game of maybe more traditional programs. In Coastal's case, kind of a sentimental favorite locally, certainly for what they were able to do. And it's always kind of that big test where you take a team that's been as hot as Coastal, even through the postseason, and you say, let's give them a heat check in Omaha and see how that turns out. And as they did in 2016, they made a run. It'll be interesting to see if they have that same magic here with a new crew.
And then, of course, two teams that Nebraska ended up beating at different points in the year, Oregon State and UCLA, make the field. Let's start with the UCLA thing really quickly. Big Ten representation in the College World Series again. What does that mean for the league, and what are the chances you give UCLA to make some noise in Omaha?
Yeah, sure. Well, sure. Big Ten representation in the field. It's that traditional team that everyone's cheering for in the league. Now, what I'll be interested in with UCLA is it kind of reminds me a little bit of the run that Michigan made in 2019, in the sense that, like, what Michigan said at that time was, especially as they made the run in Omaha, they said it was invaluable having been to that same ballpark a few weeks earlier for the Big Ten tournament. And now you've got UCLA in the same boat, where they were just in Omaha for almost a week, played Nebraska in the championship game. They got the full experience in terms of duration and crowd intensity. Now they know kind of the ins and outs of what you do, and that makes a difference. Like, you don't see it on TV, and it's not something maybe on fans' radar, but that does, I think, affect some of the preparation, and maybe it calms your nerves a little bit sooner than some of your opponents who haven't been here. Certainly, this will be a new experience for Murray State, more so than it will be for UCLA. So that's something I think you can look at as a potential advantage. They have, that team is interesting because it was built mostly around a recruiting class from 2 years ago, a bunch of sophomores that have been really good. Chalowski is the headliner, but like, that was one of the top recruiting groups in the nation. So it's kind of interesting that in this era of teams that are cobbled together through the portal, UCLA has kind of an old school approach. And it's a team that's really had the core of itself now for 2 years, and it's going to be fun to see what they can do too.
I think this is a good point to transition here, Evan, as you bring up the transfer portal, because over the last week or so, with all the departures from Husker baseball, there have been a lot of people commenting and really asking questions. What's wrong with Nebraska baseball? Is there anything wrong with Nebraska baseball that so many players are transferring, especially ones that, seem like they transferred up to Nebraska? What's going on? And I said I didn't know. I didn't think or hear of anything overly concerning that would make me think it's Nebraska's fault. Is this just regular run-of-the-mill attrition for Nebraska baseball so far this offseason, or is there something more behind the scenes?
Well, I think that's most of it is kind of business and what you do at the end of a season. And I think there are a couple things that you have to look at with this. One, this was, especially on offense, this was kind of a 2-year team. Like, you think about the jump they made a year ago, a lot of that was because they hit on almost every junior college player that they brought in. And so that group from a year ago was largely the lineup this year. And some of the guys that had decisions to make were guys that went into really the offseason thinking this was going to be it. And so, like, when you have to make a decision because the NCAA rules that former JUCO guys get another year, sometimes these guys are maybe ready to move on with life. Sometimes Nebraska has recruited in anticipation of kind of that next wave of talent coming in. And so you have to make decisions that way. I think the other thing is, a year ago at this time, it was pretty quiet for Nebraska baseball. They really didn't lose anybody that they wanted to keep out of the portal. It was pretty low drama off season for them. And so this is a different deal. And then the other thing you have to remember too is, especially now with the House settlement being passed, it's official that you're going now from a 40-man roster down to 34. So you have this recruiting class that you've already invested in and spent time to bring in. And you have guys that have a newfound ability to come back. And so you're going to have this situation where you're going to need to trim some things down. and get to that point. And it's not all that dissimilar from what we saw in football this offseason, where you're just going to see some guys move on because it's a numbers game and it's sort of inevitable at points. Does that mean that Nebraska wanted to lose Caden Brumbaugh? No, I don't think so. I think he's been a key part of what they've been about for 2 years, and I'm sure they would have been happy to have him back, but he made a decision to move on. And again, some of the other guys like a Robbie Bolin or a Riley Silva, those were guys who thought they were done anyway until pretty recently. So I don't read into it too much more deeply than that. And I think a lot of that's just part of the process here when a season ends in the modern era of college athletics.
I think some of it too, especially in the outfield, is Nebraska lost 3 of them, right? If you lose Silva, Bolin, and Cale Frost, who entered the transfer portal again, I think maybe that spooked fans a little bit. Of course, with Gabe Swanson graduating as well, that's basically an entirely new outfield for Nebraska in terms of consistent starters across the board. In terms of guys that have made the decision to stay, do we have any news on anyone that said they'll be back at Nebraska for the 26th season yet?
Just one that I put out there last week on Joshua Overbeek, third baseman. He's going to come back. He was in the same boat where he was a former JUCO guy, has been hitting at Nebraska now for 2 years. And again, before that ruling, would have been done with his college career, but he has opted to return. And he was definitely a key piece of what Nebraska was all about. I mean, he was hitting in the 2-hole late in the year. He was clearly the starting third baseman. There's not an obvious guy behind him. Rhett Stokes is still in that boat where he has to make a decision. He's another guy who's a senior who filled in for Overbeek when Overbeek got hurt here down the stretch. But I mean, that's a big deal. And so then really you're just, in terms of seniors who have decisions to make, you're still just looking at Casey Dice, a reliever, and you're looking at Tyler Stone. So those are the guys that are left in that boat. And then the conversation will become professional opportunities next month. So you're looking at, what kind of draft interest will Mason McConaughey get, who's been sitting out most of the year, who's not going to be back to health until sometime next spring after having Tommy John. What about Luke Broderick, who's got another year of eligibility and he has some draft leverage, who's been their closer? Dylan Carey is somebody who is a junior and could explore what's next too. So we're getting toward the end of kind of those seniors who have decisions to make. And then it's going to be that draft group that's next. And then hopefully Nebraska will have a better sense of what its roster is going to look like as you get into August and you start getting guys back on campus.
You mentioned the House settlement. We'll definitely get there in a second. You've also put out a couple of transfer commitments that Nebraska has. The first one that comes to my mind, Evan, is like a perfect cowboy name or like a perfect like Texas baseball name. I think picture like Friday Night Lights maybe in baseball style. Jet Buck. Tell us about this young man.
Jet Buck, yeah. And I asked him, like, is that short for anything? He's like, nope, that's my name, Jet Buck. And kind of an interesting story with him too. I mean, junior college kid in the Kansas City area for a couple of years, goes to Washburn, which is a Division II school in that area as well. And, he kind of said he called himself uneducated on the process. Again, kind of a guy who, because he played at JUCO, suddenly has this extra year that he wasn't anticipating. And so when coaches and teammates are telling him in the middle of the year, hey, put yourself in the portal and see what's out there, that really hadn't occurred to him. And so he's one of those definitions of a late bloomer. He hadn't hit a home run at any level of baseball until he was a sophomore in college. And then this current spring, or this past spring, he had 21 and had 35 in 2 years at Washburn. So that's a guy who is a shortstop by trade, who's really come into his own, has some power in his bat. It'll be intriguing to see if and how that translates to Division I, but it kind of had gone under the radar. He actually had visited and committed late last month and just kind of kept it quiet. But, we talk about a guy like Dylan Carey. Like if Carey decides to move on, you've got a guy in Buck who's ready to come in and be that guy. And if Carey comes back, you have someone who's pretty comfortable playing all over the infield. You're going to have to find a new second baseman with Caden Brumbaugh gone there too. So a guy who has some positional flexibility, and maybe I think Nebraska's hoping somebody who can give them a little bit more thump with the stick too.
Then on the other side of things, on the mound, Kevin Manel from Mississippi State. What do we need to know about him?
Yeah, I think it's Manel. I mean, he's somebody who was a high school teammate of Mason McConaughey. They nearly pitched together at Cloud County Junior College, Community College, until McConaughey came to Nebraska a year early. And, you know, had Manel come to Nebraska a year earlier, had this news come a year prior, I think people would be probably more excited about it because he was a junior college All-American. He was one of the top junior college prospects in that cycle. And he chooses Mississippi State, and he ends up throwing like 14 innings there as a reliever. Just never really came together for him. And then he transfers because they have a coaching change. And so he comes to Nebraska, which was a finalist for him a year ago. So that's a guy who I'll be just curious to see what kind of role he settles into. Kind of strikes me a little bit like a Drew Christo in terms of somebody who you feel like he could start, but he also could be one of those guys who comes out of the pen quite a bit and maybe with another opportunity, a different kind of coaching, new setting, facing maybe non-SEC lineups. Maybe that makes a difference for him. So somebody who's definitely showed it before, and it'll just be interesting to see how that potential translates.
We're talking with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. And before we let you go, Evan, I do want to talk about the piece that you put out just a few days ago, and it's titled, How to Judge Nebraska Baseball in 2025. It's in the eye of the beholder, something that we talked about when we had you on last week, and I love all the thoughts you put down. But in light of that House settlement that you mentioned, do you think that maybe Nebraska baseball missed an opportunity to position itself higher in the pecking order in terms of the revenue sharing and how that was going to be broken up by athletic director Troy Dannon? Or do you think that the numbers were always going to be the numbers, maybe no matter what some of these programs that aren't on the front burner would have done?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because the programs are going to be different at every school. Like every school is going to have its own situation. Like I think in Nebraska, football's obviously got priority. Men's basketball, volleyball are 2, 3 in some order. And then to me, it's kind of that next group of teams, like 4 through 7, where you've got wrestling, you have softball, you have baseball, and you have women's basketball. And to your point, I think those other 3 programs at this moment in time, you could point to and say maybe they're on an upward trajectory that's more obvious. Obviously, wrestling just finished second in the nation. They get a big transfer commitment. Softball's got one more year with Jordy Ball, and the interest is really high. It's Women's College World Series or bust. Women's hoops is in the Britt Prince era, and it'll be exciting to see what that team can do. And, Nebraska baseball just had a successful season by its standards, I think. But you just kind of wonder what's next. Who's the star next year? What's the identity going to be? So, yeah, I think that's almost an annual conversation or an ongoing dialogue that you have to have, which is okay, where are those programs at individually? What do they need to take that next step? And again, Nebraska did some exciting things this year. They beat ranked teams. They won the Big Ten tournament championship in front of a partisan home crowd. But you kind of wonder where that investment level or that commitment level is financially. And so some of that's on the program, I think, to continue to prove that it can do what it can do with that level of resources. And I think that's a battle that's probably just going to be kind of part of the annual dialogue here moving forward.
The other part I think is going to be interesting to monitor as well is if these percentages that are distributed to programs change. Right. Just because, maybe Nebraska baseball is, let's just say, 5th in the pecking order now. If they have, a couple of years of success, will they get bumped up to 4th? Or if things go downhill, will they get bumped down to 7th? And I think that's going to be really interesting for Troy Dannon to monitor. And I think especially communicate, because I can only imagine the conversations that I hope he's had already to some degree with his coaches. And if he hasn't, he probably has to have them pretty soon, within the next 3 weeks before revenue sharing officially drops as Nebraska, opts into being a part of the House settlement. Because I think that it would be maybe a little I won't say schizophrenic, but a little overreactive to base it year to year, kind of incentive laden. But maybe that's a good system, right? You perform well, we'll move you up the list. You perform, worse, we'll move you down the list. Most of all, though, I think it's going to be important for Troy Dannen to communicate to his coaches, maybe not where they fit in the pecking order to, and avoid internal infighting or anything like that for jockeying, but just to make it crystal clear, these are our expectations for you. If you want, a bigger piece of the pie, this is what our clear expectation for you is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think the top three at Nebraska are pretty immovable. I mean, football is always going to be there. Men's basketball is a revenue generating sport, and with the crowds that they draw, that I think is kind of positioned where it is. Volleyball at Nebraska is unique to that institution, but very important. It's become, what do you call them? One of the front porch kind of things at the university. That's something people identify with, and so you get beyond that, and they're all sports that don't make money. And this is a time in college athletics where that's even more important than it was. And so, again, wrestling has made some great strides in recent years. It's shown that it's deserving of, I think, a little bit more attention as it pursues a national championship. I mean, we just saw, again, what softball was able to do. And so I think you can have that discussion there as well. I think you look at fan attendance. I think you look at, all kinds of things that go into that. But if you're Troy Dannen and Nebraska, the number one key is going to be communication. It's going to be, here's what you have to work with, and here are the expectations that we have for you. And do those expectations, what's the difference between what the expectations Nebraska has for these coaches and what the coaches have for themselves? And sometimes, that's why you see coaching movement. We just saw Brian O'Connor in college baseball leave Virginia for Mississippi State. I mean, he didn't do it because he didn't like Virginia. He did it because it's more of a priority at Mississippi State in terms of those resources. So I think those are all things you're constantly weighing from all these different perspectives. It definitely complicates things more than what college athletics have been. But I think if it's done right, if you're smart with what you have and you're able to invest more than you have in the past, then I do think there's a path to success quicker. It's just a matter of kind of how these programs are perceived internally more than anything.
That's really good stuff there from Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Check him out on Twitter at Evan Bland, OWH. Of course, subscribe to omaha.com and listen here Wednesdays at 4:30. Evan, enjoy the College World Series. Can't wait to pick your brain about that a little bit next week. Hope to see you at or around the ballpark at some point in the next few days as well.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
That's Evan Bland again of the Omaha World Herald joining us on our Allo Fiber VIP line. Allo's where they understand the importance of exceptional service with local heart. We'll be back briefly to put a bow on the Block.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Orman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Take control of your health with the DASH scan at Advanced Medical Imaging. The DASH scan is a full-body MRI designed for advanced health screening. This dynamic approach provides exceptionally sharp images across multiple organ systems, helping to detect potential concerns early. With minimal radiation and no invasive procedures, the DASH scan offers a safe, comprehensive look at your health. Plus, results are delivered faster than ever, giving both patients and physicians confidence in screening and diagnosis. Your health is too important to wait. Schedule your DASH scan today at Advanced Medical Imaging. Visit amimaging.com or call 402-484-6677 to learn more. You grew up on cereal for breakfast and you graduated into drinking coffee at some point as an adult. Now there's a place in Lincoln where you can stay caffeinated but eat like you used to. Control Coffee and Cereal Bar brings Saturday morning vibes to every day with locally roasted specialty coffees, Lotus energy drinks, and tons of breakfast cereals with toppings. And did we mention they have video games to play while you're there too? Control Coffee and Cereal Bar open 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the weekends at 15th and Pine Lake.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at DoorsPlusLLC.com. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Hello.
Angela, we have to break up
But why?
because you're a robot and I'm just a guy trying to get better internet.
It's Aloe Fiber, isn't it? I always knew you wanted faster speeds. My contract isn't good enough for you.
Face it, Angela, they let me talk to real people.
Press 4 to break my heart. Oh wait, you already did.
Visit aloefiber.com to switch today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and they're having the biggest hail sale they've ever had. A huge opportunity is at your front door right now. Some of these cars we're fixing, some we're not, and some it's totally up to you. New Sierra starting at $15,000 off list. New Canyons at $8,500 off list. New body styles on the Acadias, $3,000 off list. You need to hurry as there's going to be a lot of people heading to Louisville. Check us out at cobblecars.com. Stock numbers G121492, G187747, and G196599.
Load up on meat and more this summer at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's specials through June 24th are $1 off ground beef, 15% off on aprons, 15% off cornhead beer, and buy one, get one 50% off on brats and hot dogs, limit 2. Plus, stop by for lunch on Fired Up Thursday at the Mercado East or Fired Up Friday at the Mercado North. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney and Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
One short segment left before we turn it over to Old School. Jay Foreman's got some NFL thoughts that he talked about earlier today. We'll give those thoughts to you coming up for the next hour. Big thanks to the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese for their sponsorship of On the Block, and Love Volleyball Omaha. Check them out, lovboma.com. Jesse the Plumber on our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line. Love the baseball talk? My man. That's what we do here. If you like baseball talk, don't forget Monday nights, 6 to 7, Baseball Corner. Me and Nick Sainer. Been a little sporadic with travel schedules. College World Series coming up on Monday might impact it as well. But throughout the summer, Monday nights, 6 to 7, we will talk baseball. Royals baseball, obviously, here on the station. Husker baseball a little bit as news continues to trickle out about what the Huskers are going to do and have done. Potentially high school baseball over. But if anything happens in that realm, we may get into it. Certainly a lot in minor league baseball as well. So Baseball Corner, again, 6 to 7 on Mondays. We're looking forward to getting after that again here in the near future. Don't forget, coming up this weekend, it'll be June 14th, starting at 11, the 32nd Annual Testicle Festival at Round the Bend Steakhouse just outside of Ashland. $10 cover to get in unless you're military personnel. Military personnel get in free, as do kids 12 and under. They'll have shirts and other merchandise available. Live music all day long from 11 to 10 with DJ Jake, Andrew Hoyt, Tanner Sovereign, Logan Ellis, and Tegan Nissen. And the headliner is David Lewis. Go check out the great people, TJ and his staff out there at Round the Bend, 30801 East Park Highway, Round the Bend Steakhouse, just outside of Ashland. Don't go anywhere. We got some NFL talk with Jay Foreman coming up next here on The Ticket.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation